Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to today's class. And that's we'll look at Colonial Ghana HIS317D. Of course, we shall look at nationalism and yeah. So last time I think we went through um some social and economic uh, issues or development that took place within the period that we are looking at, within the 83 year or years that we are looking at from 1874 to 1957. So today we are going to look at nationalism, which is very important during the period. And it was through nationalism that made it possible for Ghana to attain its independence. And therefore, we have to look at this topic, nationalism. Okay, so in the first place, so I want to say nationalism. I don't think I would not be pronouncing it nationalism. I can say nationalism. So how the way you pronounce it maybe will differ from the way I will also pronounce it. No problem. They are all the same. So nationalism, as you may call it, nationalism. Nationalism designates the feeling of an individual's belonging to a state. So when you say that, that's why when you are filling a form and you see nationality, you put down Ghanaian nationality. So now you are saying that you belonging to a state. So when you say nationalism on the face value, we are talking about somebody's individual belonging. So you belonging to a state, okay, or the loyalty that citizens have for their nation, the loyalty that they have for their nation. But in the context of African history, nationalism goes beyond a mere belonging to a state or a mere loyalty that citizens have for their nation to involve the struggle by colonized Africans or colonized African countries to end colonialism. In other words, to put an end to colonialism or to fight for their independence. That is. So a nationalist is therefore a person who strongly identifies with his or her own nation and then supports its interests more than other nations. And so that's what I talk about nationalists, those who actually supported, those who were in the forefront for the assault or fight for decolonization or independence. So we call them, they were nationalists. Okay. Now, before we delve into nationalism proper, let us look at forms of nationalism, the forms of nationalism. Forms of nationalism. So we have proto-nationalism or cultural nationalism. So cultural nationalism, another name that we have for it is proto-nationalism. And then we have radical or militant nationalism. These are the two main forms of nationalism that we have. Now we will look at cultural nationalism or proto-nationalism. Yeah. So nationalist activities in Ghana or in West Africa up to the outbreak of the Second World War. The Second World War started in 1939 and then ended in 1945. So all the nationalist activities before the commencement of the Second World War, we put all of them under cultural nationalism. And that was the time the focus was on culture, how they could actually uphold, in other words, promote the culture of Africans. So nationalist movements during this time that spearheaded the struggle were the Aborigines Right Protection Society, ARPS, which was formed in 1897. Then we also had the National Congress of British West Africa, NCBWA, 1920, the Gold Coast Youth Conference, that the GCYC in 1930, and the West African Youth League, that's WAYL in 1934. You see, World War II started in 1939. And so I said that these were pre-World War II nationalist movements. We call them cultural nationalism or proto-nationalism. Okay, let's look at briefly the activities and the methods of these nationalists during this time. What did they do? So the nationalists here that we shall look at them, especially I want to get to go into details of the cultural nationalism here. We said that they made extensive use of newspapers to speak against the ills in the system. In other words, to criticize the colonial government. So, how did they register their grievances? That is, they wrote, they wrote through the newspapers. Okay, so yeah, they registered their displeasure against the colonial administration through the media, so especially the newspapers. Now, there was the Gold Coast Methodist Times, the Gold Coast Chronicle, the Gold Coast Aborigines, and the Namzi Azigue's African Morning Post newspaper. Now, these were used as an avenue where they now educated the people on the ills associated with the colonial administration. Then there were also conferences, fora, and symposia. There were so many, so they had conferences, and as I said, and fora, and even sometimes there were a lot of symposia. And here the nations also organized several conferences and meetings, both home and abroad. And during this, and they sensitized the people on the need to come together. So that is, they contributed in arousing the national consciousness of the people to see that they were people with the same identity. They were one people with common identity, with common heritage, and all that. And therefore, why should they sit down for somebody to actually take their sovereignty and so forth? So there was the need. They aroused the national consciousness of the people. They also established clubs and associations and a movement, as I've already said, the Aborigines Right Protection Society, that even fought, it stood on its feet and fought vehemently against the crown land bills of that were passed in the last decades of the 19th century. They fought against it, and even to the extent that they went to London, they sent a delegation to London to speak against, in other words, to protest the implementation of the bills, the land bill. And again, as we saw when we last week, when we went through the structures, I think things became obvious. Are you with me, please?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I think last week when we met, we went through the structures put in place, and then we delved into the constitutions that were promulgated and that were, yeah, to administer the Gold Coast. And we did mention that, and even it came to the fore that both the legislative and executive council. That's why I exposed you to the constitution. Otherwise, I didn't want to even do that, but I wanted you to become conversant with the legal framework that they use, hence the constitution that they passed. You saw that the Africans, and that is the Africans or Ghanaians, were actually in minority. In fact, that they were excluded in these institutions. Okay, for example, the Executive Council, as we said, from 1900 to say 19, it was not until 1942 that two Ghanaians or Africans were appointed to serve in the Executive Council, and 1940 another person was added. All the while, also that means from 1903 up to this time, they were all Europeans and white. So it meant that until 1942, the Executive Council was made up of only whites. Africans were completely excluded. And even the Legislative Council that Africans were made to serve as unofficial members, they were not allowed to be official members. They were only unofficial members. And even that one, they were only few. So that will give you an idea about the fact. So these nationalists demanded that no. Why? Is that we are in our own land, but we have been excluded from these institutions. No. So they spoke against some of these things and they wanted more participation. They also wanted constitutional reforms that will give them the opportunity for them to actually serve in their own country. Okay, so having seen some of the things that they did, it is in line that we look at this movement that those movements that were created and what they stood for and their demands. Did they achieve anything at all? What were their failures? We need to look at this. Now, let's first of all look at the Aborigines Right Protection Society, the ARPS. The Aborigines Right Protection Society, ARPS, was formed in 1897 in Cape Coast by the cultural nationalists. So that is, it was formed here in Cape Coast by the cultural nationalists. It was formed primarily to speak against passage of crown land bills in the country. They passed crown land bills to claim wastelands as belonging to the British government or the crown. Okay, and they said that why should we be in London? The Queen will be in London and then claiming ownership of lands in Ghana. Why? So lands that they were of the view that their ancestors bequeathed to them as legacies. So why should they do that? So they also protested against other policies such as the town council's ordinance. I think look at that. Now, what were the aims of the ALPS? One, they wanted withdrawal of the land bills. The principal objective for the formation of the ALPS was to kick against the land bill, which intended to put in the hands of the British all lands that were not in use, what they termed as wastelands. Now, in 1894, the government published a draft bill, and this bill sought to vest all unused lands that had not been used, that is forest lands as well as minerals, in the hands of the British. In May 1898, the society, that's the ARPS, sent a 3-member delegation, and they were Jacob Wisinse, who was the president, the first president, the president of the society, then T.F.E. Jones and George Hughes. These were sent to England to negotiate for the withdrawal of the bill. So we see they fought so vehemently to the extent that they succeeded in even sending deputation, now that was delegation, to London, and they went. Again, they wanted to protect the rights of the people, protection of the rights of the people. They wanted to promote unity because they saw unity to be all. So we know that divided, united we stand, but divided we fall. So with unity, that's the idea. If you look at these even when you look at the first and coastal states, the states that emerge, you look at Adanse, we look at Dentra, we look at Asante. These states, and even these states, you see, one of their secrets, the secrets of their success was the fact that was the issue of unity. Adanse evolved around the Afanakwa that actually served as a symbol of unity. Dentra had the Bankamja there, which is very important. And then Asante had the golden stool. So you see, so the biggest stool of Dentra. Then Asante had the golden stool. And these two serve as symbols of unity. So, and for the golden stool, for example, they were of the view that their souls were enshrined in the stool, and there was the need for them to protect it. Should something happen to the stool, then all of them were going to die, and so they fought with their heart to protect it. And the stool, so somebody would say that the golden stool came from the sky. No, I think it cannot be said in my class here. Yeah, it did not come from the sky. So where do you think the golden stool came from? Yeah, so you can raise your hand and talk. Where do you think the golden stool came from? Pakwasi, what do you have to say? What have you heard about the golden stool and where it came from?
When we were kids, we were hearing that when we were kids, we understand that it was a Okonfanochi who commanded it.
Commanded from where?
But as we grew, you know,
commanded it
from
where? From the sky. Okay.
The sky. That is
so
what.
Yes. Commanded it from there. So what do you also believe that where do you believe it came from? Yes. Pakwasi.
So I'm still the view that probably was holding this type of magical thing that he did.
He did what?
It was a magical thing that he did, and then told us I was coming from the sky or whatever.
So, but history is not about religious studies. It's not about magic or magic. This is a history. So we are not studying religion where we can say that he did some magic, perform some magic. No. And okay, so what was it? Where was the stool? Where what part of the sky was it when it came down?
So it was hanging. We were told that it was hanging.
It was hanging at where? Okay,
it was
let's go
hanging
to
in
let's
the
move.
sky.
And the people saw. That's why it is. Well, who put it there?
No, it's believed that he commanded it from somewhere. Then it came down.
Where is it somewhere? History can't say that from somewhere. This is the fact. Okay, you fine. You have made effort. Let's go to Ernestina Owusu. Ernestina, what do you also think? Where the golden stool? Where do you think it came from? Yeah, what Ernestina is thinking about. Let's hear Anita.
I believe it was made. It was just made by man, but for them to become powerful, to be seen to be powerful, they just created a story around it that it is coming from the sky. So I see it just to be a mythical story without any basis, but just to prove themselves as so powerful.
Can you have anybody who is Asante? Anita, you Asante?
No, please, I'm a fancy.
Can we get the Asante people to talk? Is anybody here who is Asante? Hello? So don't you have, out of the 40 people here, you don't have even one Asante to tell us where their golden soul came from? Yeah, Opoku Kevin, we can go ahead.
Doc, thank you. I doubted it at first, but basing on history and what we've learned from our ancestors and that of our parents, our elders, and that of our culture, it depicts that Okonfanochi was very powerful, and for that matter, personally, I believe it. If not that, even some of the reading books that we have for the GHS, it seems they have embedded some of this history just to prove that something of that sort happened some time ago. So personally, I believe it.
Okay, but I'm teaching you, there is no GHS, that here is a university. Kevin, here is a university. Let's go to Abinacha. Let's hear from Abinacha, then I'll come in. Abinacha, can we have your take?
Please, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Please, story surrounding the golden stool, it's not a myth. Even if it's a myth, we believed Konfanochi commanded it from the sky or heaven in the midst of people. And when he came down, it landed on the laps of Osei, who was then the chief of
were you
the
there?
Ashanti.
Were you there, Abna? Were you there?
But yeah, this is
it's
an oral tradition. It's an oral.
Yeah, so you, how somebody will say you and I were not there.
We're not there. No, please.
Oral tradition.
Do you know the time that you are talking about? The time. Islam even started from. So the period, Osei himself died in, say, 1717. So if you're talking about the time that the golden stool was created, I'm just giving you the time that Osei himself died. So he might have taken over around what do you call it? So if he died in 1717, then 1660 something, that he might have taken over from Obirieboa. So you are looking at this period. And so who was there at this time that you can go? Nobody is alive as we speak. Okay.
But sir, please, we know that we have oral tradition. It was said, and it has also be.
But do you know the problems associated with oral tradition? Exaggeration, bias, and prejudices. Don't forget, oral tradition also has its own challenges. Okay. Any other person? Any other person? Okay. So as for I'm not teaching golden stool, so it just came just by the way. I'm actually interested in the unity that it forged. It served as a symbol of unity. And it united the if you look at the secret of Lasante, it was the golden stool that did the trick because they were made to
The
believe
political
that their souls were enshrined in the stool. But the stool never came from the sky. Take it from me. If I give you anything and it's in connection with the golden stool and you write that it came from the sky, I may give you zero. It, that Conformity conjured it from the sky. It is not true. They did not come from the sky. But
please can I ask?
let me finish. If you allow me. Okay, ask your question. Ask.
Okay, so we're talking about the early protest movement that we had the ARPS, the Aboriginal Right Protection, and NCYB and Co. That
Okay.
those early nationalists, they were protesting through writing and the rest. Even some went to a extent of going to the governor, or sorry, or the
Yeah,
British.
yeah. Going to England. Going to England. Yes.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that they went, according to you, is that they were trying to fight for our land. I want to know over here that is it that when they came, they took over our land that our traditionalists were unable to have any say because they didn't have any form of education. So the whites were in total control. Is it that our people didn't have anything to do that they could challenge them even in Gold Coast in our own land before going over there?
Yeah, because by this time they had don't forget that this time they had already officially annexed the country. The crown, the part which became known as the Crown Colony, was officially colonized in 1874 after the defeat of Asante in the Segrenti War. I think I've just taken you through that. Those who attended that class or joined that class. Okay, where the segments, the southern province, that is the western province, eastern province, and then the central province, how they came together to form the crown colony of the Gold Coast. And then later Asante and the northern territories also coming on board, or also yeah, in say 1902, and later after the defeat of Germany in World War One, that transvoter also becoming part and so becoming complete. And I think I've done that, those who attended that class. But yeah, so now they had a next part of they had a next part of the country, and they now that area that is the southern part of Ghana, yeah, they declared unused land as belonging to the crown. They passed the bill, that is the crown land bill, and that bill was meant that all unused land now belong to the crown. That meant that it's no more for the people. And that's why they said they protested that no, it was something that their ancestors. But you know that don't forget that even the Asante couldn't stand in front of these people because of the superior weapons, the cudgels and the other things that they used. And so the South, like the Fanti and those who were in the South here, how could they stand in front of the British? Even Asante, that were the superpowers at the time, couldn't even stand in front, and they defeated Asante in the Sagranti of 1874. Okay, but what they did was that they used negotiation, and they sent delegation to London, to England, to meet the Secretary of State for the colonies, and they succeeded in doing that, and they were able to convene the secretary so that the land bill was withdrawn. Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, the golden stool did not come from the sky, but its sudden creation, that office was not there. You see that if you look at the Oyuku groups, Asante was made up of two parts. We had the Metropolitan Asante or the Asante Confederacy, and we had the Provincial Asante. The Provincial Asante was made up of the conquered states, in other words, the vassal states of Asante. They were known as the provincial part of Asante. But the Asante proper, that is what we refer to as the Confederacy or the Metropolitan Asante, was also made up of non-Oyoko and the Oyoko groups. But I'm very interested in the Oyoko group of states. They were made up of Jabin, Kokofu, Insuta, Bekwai, and Kumasi. Okay, so that is what we have. So we have Jabin, Kumasi, Bekwai, Insuta, and Kokofu. There were 5, and they were all at par. They consider themselves as brothers and sisters. So brothers, uncle, can brothers, and no one was above the other one. Osetutu was so smart, and that's why he said thinking. If you think, he was able to now. Okonfor-Enokye was his bosom friend, his friend. So he and Okonfor-Enokye they sat and thought, thinking will use the world. That's why you have to think. If you don't even think to plan things, especially at this rate that you are doing, if you don't sit to plan how you can combine learning with other work that you are doing and family duties and all that, it's going to be a problem. So they planned and to elevate the occupant of the Kumasi stool above the others, above Gabin, above Kukofu, above Bekwai and Isuta. And they succeeded in doing that. So they created the office of Asante. And then the golden stool, the stool that he would sit on it was named the golden stool. And so the sudden creation of the office and the stool was as if it had dropped from the sky. And yeah, so it was not there. It was a sudden creation. And so it was, according to Straya Nifika, it was as if it had dropped from the sky. And not that the golden stool, they saw it that it was coming from, as people believe, oh, it was coming amidst what do you call it, smoke. And no, it didn't, it wasn't that. But its sudden creation was as if it had dropped from the God. There was nothing like the office of Asante or the golden stool. It was a sudden creation. I think that is what I have said, and that is what you have to take from me. Anyway, let's move on. Unless anyone gets the question, then you have question, then
Hello, Doc.
Yeah.
Yes, I've raised my hand for a while, Doc.
Okay,
on
okay.
The issue of the story that you told us, I think that personally, then the historians that wrote our books, they have done a very great disservice to us, because if it has to take us to be at the university before we have to know the truth. Initially, as a colleague said, growing up, all the basic school books, the JHS, the senior high school stories, we were being told with pictorial designs that he commanded it from the sky. So if he has to take us to be at the university level through Dr. Boachi to tell us the truth, then I think that our education setup has done a great disservice to us. Because initially, I think there was a time that
it has not done a disservice to you. You are now becoming a scholar. At that level, you are not a scholar. So when you use oral tradition to tell you that it's okay, oral tradition. But that is what people can, yeah. So oral information pass, and people will tell you that, and you believe. But here we will tell you the fact that this is it.
Okay. So Doc, Doc, let me also take you to the Bible small, the issue of Garden of Eden. We were not there. So can it be a point that somebody can, stand up to defend that story never existed, or that person can come out with an account to say that yes, we were not there at that time, and the Garden of Eden had any fruit?
But we have historical thing about the Garden of Eden. We have an idea about it historically.
Okay.
St. Augustine in his this 30 day. If we look at the philosophy of history, St. Augustine came at first. There was the idea, if you look at the ultimate aim of human existence, people have the view that is it that people keep their philosophies. People wanted to know what is the ultimate aim of human existence.
Okay.
So people have the view that you go through a cycle, and then depending on the kind of life that you live, they will determine the next coming. So if you are somebody like even you are a king and you are wicked now in your existence, you are coming by, can come even to be, you can be born as a cockroach or an ant or even a slave. But if you live a good, so that was another people, that's what they believe. Others will have the view that, so then St. Augustine came with the linear relationship that you will not go through any cycle, but there's relationship. So there's that kind of linear one, and that is either you go to heaven or you go to hell. So your relationship to that, and that was the struggle that came. And St. Augustine, he gave an idea about that, the city of heaven, and he said that it began when man fell in the Garden of Eden. So this had historical antecedent background, and we have a lot of works. We cannot disprove that one. But this time you are talking about, we are only basing on oral tradition to say, and oral tradition has its own shortcomings. And as I said, you were not there at the time. Other people were there, they saw it coming. Were you there? So what scholarly you can say, but the children fine, you can write that, Yeah, for them to believe, because if you tell them that it's sudden creation as if a drop, it's not their level. They cannot absorb this. Here is where we do critical analysis and review. So you there, we can tell you and you believe. But the children, if you go to somebody in basic 5 or 6 to say that, oh, it's sudden. No, no, no. So that's their level. We use the oral tradition one to tell them that, yeah, that is what you say. It came from the sky. And then they will have some fear. Oh, okay, okay, okay. But that is not the truth. Anyway.
Thank you, Daryl.
I think we can. That's just by the way. 'Cause I was not even supposed to do that, but that's just by the way. I was on. Let's move on to what we were talking about. Yeah, so I was saying that. Yeah, so I was just making a point of unity, and I mentioned the biggest two of the intra people. I mentioned the Afnaka of the Adanse, and I mentioned the Golden Soul. And this, be that as it may, these served as symbols of unity. It brought the people together, and that's why Santi became so vibrant because of the Golden Soul. Now, they also wanted to promote the tradition and culture of the people. And it was because of this promotion of tradition and culture, that's why we call them cultural nationalists. And don't forget that even Infantry Film School was set up by this cultural nationalists, Saba and Co, it was Sam, and this, what do you call it? Yeah, these were those people who set up Infantry Film. Yeah, in 1905, they set up Infantry Film in 1905. And then, so Infantry Film, some people say that 1876 is not true. Infantry Film was not, I only go to the school, it is written the 1876. They wanted me to write their history. I said that if I'm going to write, I will not say that it is 1876. I write 1905 because the one that the Western missions set up in 1876, it collapsed. It was during this time, this cultural nationalist era, that Saba and Co revive it. And look at where it was, where they built the collegiate school. Those of you have been to what do you call it, the Western Methodist around the Chapel Square there, getting to the castle. That's where it was built. But the new one, this one that the nationalist people built, Saba and Go, you see that when you look at it, Kobocho Hill. So you see, you understand. But then we say that Infantry Film established in 1876. Why? Why? Well, anyway, okay. So let's look at achievements of the ALPS. Through their efforts, the land bill was withdrawn. I think I've already made this point. And this was when, in August 1898, the society sent a deputation to London to meet the Colonial Secretary Joseph Chamberlain, and that led to the repeal of the bill. Then the LPS also worked hard to ensure that the first bill could not be implemented in the Gold Coast at all. So it was finally put off. Again, it served as the mouthpiece of the people in the Gold Coast. It generated a sense of national consciousness among the people. Their activities led to the constitutional reforms during the 1925 Gettysburg Constitution. Yeah, that increased the unofficial representation. And in other words, that made it possible for him to introduce the elective principle. They wanted reforms where they could elect. So Gettysburg bought into their conversation or their idea, and then introduced the elective principle, where the idea of election for the first time, but even though it was not significant because only 3 people or only 3 municipalities were made to elect. Our others were through nomination. Again, the society contributed significantly to the growth of secondary education in Ghana. I think I've said that they set up Infantry Film. So the name Infantry Film has nothing to do with the Wesleyan or the Methodist Church, but only that they associated it. They gave the credit to the Wesleyan school because they set up the first secondary school in Cape Coast. You see, that's why the name Infantry Film has nothing. Infantry Film meant that thousands of fantas would benefit from the school. It has nothing to do with the Wesleyan College or the Methodist Church. The name itself, but I think they gave the credit to the Methodist Church since they set up first school. So they were the view that thousands of fantas would benefit from the school. Now there were certain shortcomings or weaknesses. One, it was not a nationalist organization, as it extended only as it existed only in Cape Coast. And so again, once they get the land bill withdrawn, oh, they became too satisfied and felt that, oh, we had achieved a lot. And they sat on the fence. Again, it did not adapt to modern techniques of the post-World War II assault against colonial rule. Now, it was not radical enough. And then another reason for its decline was the formation of the NCBWA, and that was an interterritorial movement, so it led to the decline. Okay, so let's now look at the NCBWA. And so this one was founded or created by Joseph J. Hayford. So the Congress brought together delegates from all the four British West Africa. So we had Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Nigeria. What were their aims? One, they wanted to enhance the provision of social amenities such as roads, health, and education in the British West Africa. Again, they wanted to provide a platform for the colonies in British West Africa to express their interest on social or socio-economic and political issues that affected them at the time. Again, they wanted to enhance federation among the colonies of British West Africa. That's why they brought all people, those from Sierra Leone, those from Nigeria, those from the Gambia and Ghana all together to think about issues and see how best they could now improve their lot. Again, to ensure the setting up of a university in the colonies of British West Africa. They saw that without university education, then self-government would be a fiasco. They would never achieve independence without university education, because of course, if you had people who were illiterates, and even if they said they were going to grant you independence, which people were going to rule? Illiterates. It was not possible. So that's why they linked university education to what? To the attainment of independence. Because without that, independence will not be possible. Even when they say that we are living, they will suffer. Anyway, so through this, they made certain demands. Let's look at their demands.
Madam Sidonia, kindly mute. Thank you.
Wanted universities to be established in the four colonies of British West Africa: the Gold Coast, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia, so that such universities will be able to provide advanced education and training for the citizens in their colonies. Then again, they called for the introduction of the elective principle for the people to elect their representatives. And this was the demand that Gettysburg adopted it. And hence he introducing the elective principle in the 1925 Constitution. They called for establishment of banks and other financial institutions for the British West Africa to regulate the financial matters of the colonies. And they also wanted an end to the interference of the colonial government in traditional institutions of chieftaincy, where they could remove a chief and impose another, but someone who was not from the royal family. So they wanted actually to end to the interference of the colonial government in chieftaincy institution. Again, they wanted a separation of the judiciary from the political administration. They wanted independence of the judiciary, and they wanted Africanization of the judiciary. They saw that the judiciary, it was made up of ineffective or inefficient whites, and therefore they wanted Africanization, where many of them would be Africans, through the appointment of qualified judges and magistrates, as well as setting up of the West African Court of Appeal. They wanted WACA to be set up. Again, the Legislative Assembly should have control over taxation and budgeting. They did not want it to just become a rubber stamp, and everything that they will say, the government could just veto it. No. Okay. and they should elect half of the members of the Legislative Council in each British West African colony. These were their demands. What were they able to achieve these demands? Let's see what they achieved so far. Now, through their effort, there was a separation of judiciary from the colonial administration, so judiciary was made independent. The West African Court of Appeal was also established. The NCBWA demanded for the setting up of higher institutions of learning was realized. So that led to the establishment of Achimota College in Ghana, Wales College in Sierra Leone, and Amstage College in the Gambia. Now, this way, the Achimota grew to become University of Ghana. Okay, it was Achimota that later, so they gave it investing instruction started in Achimota until they moved to Legon Hill. Okay, so Achimota, that's why I've said Achimota. It used to have a primary section, like kindergarten, primary, then secondary section, and then university as well. Okay, then we have the Wells in Sierra Leone, and then Amstead in the Gambia. The NCBWA succeeded in their quest to have more Africans brought into the Legislative Council. And this became evident during the 1925 Constitution, in which 3 educated Africans were elected and 6 chiefs appointed to the Legislative Council. Now, the elective principle was introduced during the 1925 Constitution, where representatives were elected from the municipalities of Secondary Accra, the Cape Coast, and Accra. The colonial authorities stopped meddling with the choice and removal of traditional rulers. Now, challenges, and then what led to the decline of the NCBWA. The major challenge that the Congress faced was the death or demise of its founder, Joseph Ephraim Kesey Hayford, in 1930. So the death of Kesey Hayford was a major, because he was actually the brain behind the whole thing. Okay, so the Congress faced stiff opposition from the traditional rulers because of its failure to incorporate traditional rulers into its activities. Such chiefs included Anaufurata the first of Acham. The chiefs saw themselves as, they saw the educated elite as usurping their powers. So there was that kind of power struggle. The activities of the Congress also threatened the colonial government, and so it faced an opposition from the governors. Again, the NCBW did not have adequate funds to carry out its activities, and the Congress also faced opposition from the ARPS, members of the ARPS. This society viewed the NCBW as a keen competitor to its activities. Okay, now the Gold Coast Youth Conference was also important here. It was inaugurated in 1929 by Dr. J.B. Dankwa. Other members were Dr. K.B. Akoto, that is K.B. Akoto, J.C. DeGraff Johnson, K.A. Bosman, R.S. Gray, F.B. Nanka Bruce, etc. Now, what were their objectives? They wanted to fight against any form of prejudice and victimization against Africans in public service. So they wanted to foster unity among all groups and societies in the Gold Coast. And so especially the rift between the chiefs and then the educated elites. They wanted to ensure economic and political reforms in the Gold Coast. And they wanted to create a sense of national consciousness among the people, so that they would know that they all had common identity, they were all one people, and so they needed to fight for their independence. And again, they wanted to cement unity among the chiefs and the intelligentsia. They saw the rift as causing a lot of harm to the state. Now, what did they achieve? They settled the rift between the chiefs and the intelligentsia. That time they did well. They also played a key role towards the integration of the Asante into the Legislative Council during the 1946 Constitution. They also organized conferences and seminars in which they demanded for socio-economic and political reforms in Ghana. Their demand finally made it possible for the colonial government to improve the conditions of workers in Ghana. Again, their quest to have higher institutions of learning and the pressure they mounted on the colonial government led to the setting up of the University College of the Gold Coast, now University of Ghana, in 1948. So University of Ghana was set up. We saw that even J.B. Danko and others were in the forefront, and Professor Biota and others, they were asking people, yeah, the farmers to contribute. That's why when you go to Legon, you have the recognition of the part played by the farmers, the cocoa farmers in particular. So you have the Akwafo Hall, where you have cocoa there. So the
Yes,
cocoa
sir.
farmers even contributed to the establishment of the University of Ghana. That used to be called the University College of the Gold Coast. And
Yes,
that was
sir.
in 1948. Can you dot your questions down? When I'm done, then you come out with
Oh,
the question.
okay, sir.
Okay. So they were able to send a delegation to England in 1934, in which they called for Africanization of the executive and the legislative councils. What were the weaknesses or the shortcomings of these of the Gold Coast Youth Conference? The conference was an elite group, as you can see, you could see. If you were not enlightened, if you're not elite, if you're not well educated, then they found it difficult to be there. An elite group, and did not include the masses in their activities. They did not have a well-defined philosophy and ideology, which marked its effective operation. And so we'll look at the last one, that is the West African Youth League. And this league was inactive. It was a radical group in the Gold Coast, and that was especially in the 1930s. It was formed by ITA Wallace Johnson as a Union, as a Union in 1934. Other members were and J.W. Kujo, Bankarawuna Rena, Ellis Brown, J.A. Backplange, R.B. Wutofe, and Meloku. Now, what were their objectives? They wanted to bring an end to racial discrimination suffered by the indigents in public service. They wanted, they demanded for decolonization, another independence in the British West African colonies. They called for good working conditions for workers, and they wanted to stimulate a sense of national consciousness in the colonies of West Africa. Now, these were their objectives. What did they achieve? They set up newspapers like the African Morning Post, which they used to create awareness and national consciousness among the people. They published articles in newspapers and held conferences that attacked colonial imperialism. Okay, so members like Dr. Nancy Azikiwe and others were instrumental. Now, they also introduced an element of radicalism, which changed the face of nationalist struggle in the post-World War II era. They fostered unity between the intelligentsia and the chiefs to fight for a common purpose, in other words, to fight for independence. So they also secured better conditions of service for workers. We will now delve into nationalism after World War II, and that is what we refer to as radical nationalism or militant nationalism or post-World War II nationalism. Let's look at factors for the rise of nationalism after World War II. This is very important. Take note. I always ask this in exams. The S's. Factors that change or that made nationalism militant after World War II. One was unemployment in the country. So unemployment rate in the country kept on deteriorating, especially in the post-war years. Elementary and secondary school leavers who were without jobs left villages to towns, and they left villages and towns to the big cities in search of jobs, white-collar jobs, and these jobs were non-existent, and you know what it would cost. There was also a widespread discontent about the education system in the colonial at the time. The indigenous saw the education system as incapable of teaching any form of skill or trade. Rather, it concentrated on literary knowledge. The nationalists wanted university education in the British West Africa, where the members will be well enlightened, we thought. Again, there was unbearable economic hardship in the Gold Coast following the outcome of the war. This was largely blamed on the colonial government for doing little to alleviate the economic sufferings of the people in spite of the huge profits accrued from the sale of cocoa. Again, the Gold Coast remained exclusively the producers of raw material for Britain's factories. In the midst of excessive exploitation of the country's mineral resources. One other thing that we need to take note was the testimony of the Gold Coast troops, those who went there, and this was a external factor. So you see, some of the things that I'm giving to you are the things are both external and internal. I can just say that what explain for external factors that change nationalism, or that made nationalism radical, or I can say that internal, or I can say that I can make it blank, that talk about discuss or analyze for without limiting you to either external or internal. But as I have just explained to you, you would see that some of them were external and others were also internal factors. Now, the testimony of the Gold Coast troops, both combatants and non-combatants, who prosecuted the war on the side of British, broke their myth surrounding the superiority of the Europeans. Now, until their testimony, we felt that these people, even now, when they come to the village, the whites, the children in the villages, even now in modern Ghana, they will be following them and they will look at them as if they were gods. No, no. When they went there, they saw that after all, even Africans, we were stronger than them. In the estimation of Adubuahi, a small bullet that will hit a white soldier and will be wailing on top of his voice, an African could calm himself so that the enemy will not see where they were. You see? And it was said that even some of the Africans, even a Ghanaian, St. Anthony rose to even command the army. What was worse, even the white women, they were at this time that they were even seriously fighting. Then the white women were chasing the African men for sex there, and they felt that these people that so the testimony demonstrated that okay, and so it was also one of the contributing factors. After all, we are even stronger, and the people that we see them to be God, no, out. The war led to the rise of USA, and the USSR, that the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, as the new world superpowers. So we had two superpowers. Yeah. Now we had the USA and the USSR until the USSR disintegrated in the 1990s, giving way to the USA as the superpower. So the war led to the rise of USA and the USSR as the world superpowers. And these superpowers favored decolonization. In other words, they wanted each country that was at the time under colonial rule to have its own independence. So God did themselves, they were not having colonies and they were not interested in acquiring colonies and maintaining it. That was another factor. So as I said, such powers were against colonialism and favored decolonization of all countries, including Africa. Ghanaians were also unhappy with the provisions of the Ban's Constitution of 1946. Look at this constitution that was promulgated in 1946. The war ended in 1945. And now that the people, the West Africans had seen the weaknesses of the Europeans, now they felt that they wanted to compensate Africans by rushing out with the Ban's Constitution of Ghana, that's the Bank Constitution of 1946 in Ghana, and the Richardson Constitution of Nigeria, the same year, 1946, making Africans unofficial majority. Why? At the time that they wanted independence, even some countries in Asia had attained independence, Pakistan and co. Now they were just rushing to introduce a constitution that will make African majority, having majority in the unofficial representation. And that's what they described the Ban's Constitution as dead at birth because they did not meet their aspiration at the time. Again, after the war, political parties were created or established with a view of vesting power with the colonial government. Such parties demanded full self-government. Now let's look at some of these parties. The agencies were the first. The agencies were the first to be formed. So the grievances of the nationalists after World War II led to the formation of the UGCC, that's the United Gold Coast Convention on 4th August 1947 at Saw Pond. Executive members were George Grant, also popularly known as Pa Grant, who was the chairman and the financier. Dr. J.B. Dankwa was the vice chair. R.A. Awuno Williams, treasurer. J.W. de Graaf Johnson, R.S. Bray, Obechebe Lamte, Williams Oforiata, Ituda Kufuado, Kobina Kesi, and John Table. In November 1947, it was formed in August 1947, take note. And in November 1947, Kwame Nkrumah was invited from London through the recommendation of Akwaji to become the full-time secretary of the UNCC. What were the objectives of the UNCC? Okay, one, they wanted to see to it that by all legitimate and constitutional means, the direction and control of government should pass into the hands of the people and their natural rulers in the shortest possible time. They also opposed the Ban's constitution. They wanted to abrogate the preeminence of chiefs in the legislative council, and they wanted to fight for constitutional advancement for the people. What they achieved, they brought the nationalists together. They introduced newspapers, the talking drum, and that helped them a lot. Again, they extended these activities to southern areas and Ashanti. Again, they contributed in the preparation of the 1951 Constitution, or the Kuse Constitution, or the Washington Constitution. And again, the leading members of the party took their assault against colonialism to the next level, especially following the 1948 riots and then the arrest of the Bixes. That made them popular. And so let's have an idea about the riot, 1948 disturbances, riots and disturbances. It took place on 28 February 1948, and it was characterized by riots, shooting, and looting of expatriate shops. The looting of expatriate shops started in Accra and later spread to other parts of the country in San Kofode and Kumasi. Now, what were the causes? Unemployment, cutting down cocoa trees without compensation, discrimination against the intelligentsia, exorbitant price of goods. These were remote causes. The immediate ones were the shooting of the unarmed servicemen. They were not armed. They were not having any gun on them. Why should you shoot them? That was what triggered the immediate. Now the shooting led to the death of 3 servicemen. They were Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odati Lamti. So the news of the event led to the widespread rioting and looting of expatriate shops. Through the riots, about 29 people died and properties valued more than £2 million were destroyed. Effects of the riot. It led to the arrest and detention of the UGNCC leaders. So they became the big because they were 6 in number. Many people died in the course of the riot. Then it also led to the establishment of the Watson Commission under the chairmanship of Akin Watson. And the commission submitted its report in 1948, June 1948, and it attributed the disturbances to social, political, and economic injustices like unemployment, domination of the economy by foreigners, exorbitant prices of goods, the cutting down cocoa trees without compensation, shortage of housing, among others. And it came out with its recommendation. It recommended that a new constitution be established or be passed to provide for internal self-government. Okay. And that should increase members in the Legislative Council, and Africans should be in the majority. There's also the issue of Africanization of the civil and public services. Africans should dominate in these areas. And then there was also the need for higher education to be set up. And so following this, the Kuse committee was set up. The government therefore set up a committee, that's the Kuse committee, led by or chaired by Justice J.H. Kutu. Now, the committee were made up of 40 members. They were, of course, of course, they were to study the recommendation of Washington Commission and state its proposal for constitutional reforms. And so their recommendation actually, this constitution was required to bring immense reforms, especially in both the legislative and the executive councils. The committee submitted its report on to the governor on 26 October 1949 with the following proposals: one, adoption of bicameral legislature, establishment of legislature with 2/3 of its members elected through franchise and 1/3 elected through the Territorial Council of Chiefs. The executive should be reconstituted and be made answerable to the Legislative Assembly, and the establishment of a new system of local government. Okay. Now, one interesting thing that we need to mention here, that fast track Ghana's independence and made it possible for Ghana to become the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to attain independence was the division between Nkrumah and the other leaders. The rift. And so that began. Please, are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please, we can hear you.
Okay, so now the differences. The membership of the Kuste Committee widened the gap between Nkrumah and the others because all of them were invited to sit in the Kuste committee, but Nkrumah was not. Okay. Now, so in short, Nkrumah broke away from the UGCC to form his own party, the CPP. And the CPP was the second political party to be formed in Ghana. But the first elite party to be formed in Ghana was, is the UGCC. So Kwame Nkrumah finalized his decision to break away from the UGCC on 11 June 1949. And the next day, that's the 12th June 1949, the CPP was born. Dr. Nkrumah was a good orator, was a good organizer, and a radical nationalist. He was also handsome. He was a simple man and could easily reach out to the ordinary people, especially the masses. Hence, his association with the ordinary people and the so-called the veranda boys. These slides are just skeletal presentation. When you look at the books, the references, the books I've given to you in the course outline, you see that you're going to go and get the details. Now let's look at the objectives of the CPP. They wanted to fight for or achieve self-government now for the people of Ghana, or for the people of the Goko at the time there was no Ghana. They wanted to ensure better condition and remuneration of workers. They wanted to eradicate all forms of oppression in the country. They wanted to support Pan-Africanist ideas. And they wanted to foster unity among the chiefs and the people of the Gold Coast at the time. Now, why did he break away? One, UCC's approach to independence versus Nkrumah's approach. Whilst Nkrumah wanted self-government now, UCC wanted self-government within the possible time. And so, it did not resonate well with Nkrumah. Two, ideological differences. Nkrumah was radical and had socialist and Pan-Africanist ideas, but the UCC, they subscribed to political ideas, to capitalists. They subscribed to capitalist ideas. Now, another one was the suspension of Nkrumah. Nkrumah was suspended as the general secretary of the party and was made treasurer. And this was a kind of demotion. So it did not go well with Nkrumah. And then Nkrumah was also, as I've already said, excluded from the Kuste committee. And we see that when Nkrumah set up or established the Ghana National College, it did not go down well with the other leaders. You see, those who took part in the round, the teachers and all those people, they were punished. So Nkrumah set up this, and then Nkrumah set up the Ghana National College in 1948, after they called on him for his assistance. But this issue did not sit well with the leading members. And again, Nkrumah's establishment of the Accra Evening News was also another issue. Okay, now, because they felt that Nkrumah was propagating his own agenda, and so and so forth. The CPP achieved. The CPP led the country to independence on 6 March 1957. It promoted education in the country by introducing free primary education for children between the ages of 5 and 13. Many teacher training colleges were also set up to accelerate the training of teachers to meet the increasing numbers of people following the introduction of the Accelerated Development Plan for Education, ADP. The University College of the Gold Coast, now University of Ghana, and the Kumasi College of Technology, also presently known as the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, were independent universities of the University of London by Kwame Nkrumah or by the government. Then, in the field of infrastructure, we can talk about many things. We had the Tema Harbor, Akosomo Dam, and so on and so forth. Okay. The Tema Motorway too, we can talk about it. Again, the CPP did not only provide free medical care to the people, but Okonfa Teaching Hospital in Kumasi was also set up. Then the CPP educated the Gold Coasters on the evils of colonialism. Now, let's finally look at the methods that the CPP adopted to fast track or expedite independence. Okay, so the party adopted legitimate political actions, and that included sending petitions and delegations to the Colonial Office in London. They also adopted the spread of anti-colonial information through its newspapers. I've already mentioned the Accra Evening News, the Cape Coast Daily Mail, and the 2nd Morning Telegraph. The CPP also utilized political educational campaigns. And one other thing that we cannot go without mentioning is the use of the positive action. The use of positive action. By positive action, Nkrumah meant the adoption of all legitimate and constitutional means by which the forces of imperialism could be crippled. And this was to be achieved through the use of legitimate political agitation, newspaper and educational campaigns, and as a last resort, the constitutional applications of strikes, boycott, and non-cooperation based on the principle of absolute non-violence. The positive action was declared on 8th January 1950, and it brought the colonial economy to a halt and translated it. It contributed immensely to the attainment of independence. In fact, don't forget that it was this positive action that made it possible for the leading members of the CPP to be arrested, including Nkrumah himself. So Nkrumah was put in jail, and Nkrumah was even still in jail when he won the 1951 election. So it was Kwamina Godema who actually did everything for Nkrumah, the organization, everything for Nkrumah. So Nkrumah won, and then he had to be released from prison to become the leader of government business in 1951. And in March 1952, that position was changed to prime minister. And that was why in 1951, internal self-government started when Nkrumah was made the leader of government and prime minister. Okay, and so that was a major headway. I think I will end my lecture here. And now invite questions from you. People wanted to ask questions, and I said that they should jot all of them down. Now that I've ended my class, you can now ask all the questions that you want to ask. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, Vincent.
Who's having a question? Vincent, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Vincent, you have a question? Go ahead and ask.
The JB Dankwa, I know you mentioned about the process, what led to the establishment of the University of Ghana. Is that the reason why just few years ago, President Akufo-Addo suggested that University of Ghana be renamed after him.
Yeah, but he was not the only person who was in the forefront. There were many people, even though initially, when the idea, because don't forget that investing instruction started in Achimota around 1929. And so investing instruction, yeah,
Yes.
instructions were offered there in Achimota College. So when it was moved to Legon Hill in 1948, you see that that's the construction. But that was the time that, don't forget that the colonial government set up commissions. So commissions, first of all, the Elliott Committee, and it was the Ascrit Commission and the Elliott Commission, and they came with their reports. Okay, so I don't think I have to delve into that. But then the most important thing is that while the colonial government was dragging its feet, the nationalists saw the need to start something. And so these people were in the forefront. But your question as to why, I would say that he was not the only person. There were others, many others who were in the forefront fighting. That's why people were of the view that, why are you going to single him out and name it after him? Since he was not the sole person, but there were others, as I mentioned, Professor Biota and many others were also part of this, which we gave them because they were all doing that. Okay.
Yes, I ask that because you mentioned several people. You mentioned the contribution of several people. So I was wondering why President Akufo-Addo single-handedly insisted that University of Ghana be named after J.B. Dankwa. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
people
sir.
oppose it because he was not the only person who contributed, but there were several of the nationalists.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anita, do you have a question? Come out with your question.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Please, I want to know, was it the colonial government at the time who put up the Infante Pim College structure? The buildings, I mean.
The colonial government who put up the building.
Yes, please.
The building has
I'm
gone
asking.
through certain changes, and the headmasters who took over, all of them, and the old boys, they had also done a lot. But then the one that was started by what do you call it, Saba. If you look at the crest, when you see any boy, the boys, when you see them in their uniform, look at the crest. The crest was designed by John Mensa Saba. So you can see the things in the crest, boost and other. I don't want to tell you, but I just want you to observe the crest and look at what is there. You see that the Dutchans were smart. They blended both indigenous and foreign things together. Okay, so to enhance itself. So that was a blend. Okay, it's so fantastic. But then, as I said, it went through phases, and the structure that we saw there, you can see there, all of them were not put up or were not built at the same time. So others will come, and then previous governments, including old boys and even other governments, post-independent government, all put up some of the structure. We can go there and do research and come and tell us more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Questions? Those who were asking wanted to ask.
Yes, sir. Vincent again. When you were talking about the Ashanti Kingdom, you mentioned those respective kingdoms that were equal in power. So I want to find out whether before they finally centralized Kumasi as a power center, who were they having a Asantehene?
Oh, so did you join late?
Yes, I think so. I joined late.
You want me to repeat myself, but I don't think I have to repeat myself. I said that all of them, the Oyoko states, group of states,
yes,
Kumasi, Draben,
yes,
Kokofu, in Suta and Bekwai, they were all at par. They considered themselves as brothers.
Yes.
You see? So
Yes,
all of them were equal. Now it was one of Osentu took over from Obiri Ebua. And then his friend Okonfanochi, they were smart. They planned of elevating Kumasi's stool over the others.
Okay.
And so they were those who planned and then created a stool and named it Golden. And then said that anybody who should sit on that one should become their Santahene. You understand what I'm talking about? So they created the Golden stool and they made Osetutu, Osetutu Asantehene. So they use psychology, religion. They use psychology. That's why religion people will say that, oh, you commanded it from the sky. They use religion and psychology to do that. And that's why they elevated, and that's why they created the office of Asantehene. And so that's why I was saying that its sudden creation was as if, according to Strike and Ifika, as if it had dropped from the sky. And that's why people are there, oh, it came from the sky. Where was it that it came?
Yeah. So my question was that before what you just said, are some people do they have a central person like Asantehene?
No. I said they were not having.
Okay.
All of them were brothers and they were doing things together. Yeah. Nobody was above the other.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Thank you, sir.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, sir.
And that was why we said that, don't forget that even Okonfo-Addo planted 3 trees when they wanted to get a capital for the Asante.
Yes.
And they said that Kumawu one died. And so I don't want to go there. That is not what I'm teaching. I don't want to go there.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, NS, I am Kwame Asabel.
Yes, Doc. Doc, thank you for today's lecture. Doc, please, I want to find out, looking at the days of interval when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was being expelled from the UGCC and his formation of the CPP, can I say that the UGCC were aware that though Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was with them, but because of the ideology of he wanting to have a team that they want to attain independence now, looking at the time frame of how Kwame Nkrumah set up the CPP, I think within a day or two, were there any signs that the UGC they saw that was his agenda? Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Yeah, but of course, don't be what should I even put it? And don't be surprised about this because even Nkrumah was the main person. Because the members of the union, other members, executive members, they were just working on part-time basis. Nkrumah was full-time. He was the one who went to every village, every town to propagate the message of the UGCC. He was the general secretary. So his position was the full-time worker. While the others were bringing money and they were, meeting. But Nkrumah was the one who was actually in the office and was moving through every place to sell the message of the UGCC and all that. And don't forget, so Nkrumah used that opportunity to popularize himself. So he became popular. Okay. And he was also a good orator, somebody who could speak well, who could talk to convince people, and he had that charisma. He was that charisma. And for whether the UGCC members were aware or not, their relationship, there was a straight, there was that kind, it got a time that their relationship mild. There was that became a strained relation. What the causes of that, I think I've given them to you. Ideological wise, even approach to independence, where these people were dragging their feet in Soda. No. The time is ripe. Look at India and other countries. Asian countries have had their independence. So what are we dragging our feet for? And other things that I've said, you see. So that one, it became obvious to them. That's why they even suspended Nkrumah as general secretary. But this some things had become too late. Nkrumah had nursed the plan of forming his own party behind the scenes. And even people were trying to advise Nkrumah, including the Nana Kobianka, the fourth of Escado, who played a key role in the CPP at the time. I don't want to go there. But I think I can invite Apangus, Apanda.
Doc, thank you for the opportunity. Sorry, I guess joined. I left the phone and I was somewhere. I didn't know there was impromptu.
Oh, then if you left the phone, you were somewhere, then we will not ask you to come and waste our time.
Okay, no, I am asking a question in relation to what you are just talking of. about the reasons why Nkrumah left the UGCC. Some of the reasons I always hear of the last blow, the last blow. Then please, Doc, what is the last blow?
What do you mean by last blow?
I thought one of the reasons that led him to leave. They say there was one last reason, the reason that came last. And I'm still figuring out and I am not getting it proper.
There were several reasons. It depends on chronology that you put it. Chronology and analysis, what you are doing. Because there were some of these reasons. Will you say that he not being invited to serve in the Kusi in what do you call it, committee? Or what do you say? That also all these factors stream, but you follow chronology and we are systematic. Go and read Nkrumah's papers, and then we will know when you are following chronology.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Pakwasi.
Yeah, so may I know the reason why anytime they mention the big six, somebody like Grant is never included. He was even the chairperson of the UGC, but yet anytime they mention the big six, he was not included. Why?
So mention the big six. You mention them. Let's mention them. SAT, mention them. I think they know the big six. Let's mention them.
Yes, I know that.
No, to answer your question, I just want you yourself to mention the big. This question, you answer yourself. So you mention the big six. Let's go.
Yes, Akwaje.
Okay, Akwaje.
Dr.
Yes.
Kwame Nkrumah. Edward Akwaje himself.
Okay.
Oforiata.
Williams Oforiata. Yes.
Yes. Obechebi Dampe.
Obechebi Dampe. Have you mentioned JB Dankwa?
And then Dr. Boachi Dankwa.
Yeah, JB Dankwa. So is it that Grant was not there?
Yes.
Because he was not arrested. He was a big time merchant moving from one country to another and doing his business. The time that they arrested him, he was not there. He was not part of those who were arrested. Those who were arrested were 6. And Grant was not part of those who were arrested. So when we say the big 6, we are making reference to those who were arrested and not those who were all the executive members of the UGCC.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah, Bukari. Mr. Bukari, do you have a question? I saw your hand up. Okay. I think if you don't have any other questions, then we will make end.
Please, Doc. I have a question. There's something bothering my mind concerning Nkrumah based on what we are learning today. My problem is Nkrumah separating from the UGCC as a result of wanting self-independence now, because as patriotic as it seems he is, he didn't come himself to fight for independence for his country, but he was rather invited by a group of nationalists. So if you were invited by a group of nationalists, why don't you stick to the ideas, or even if you have your own ideas, why don't you try to bring them on board instead of separating to form your own party? I see it rather to be a betrayal.
Okay, you see it to be a betrayal. Okay, but it's not a betrayal. It was through what he did that we had independence, that we became the first country in sub-Saharan Africa or South Saharan Africa to have independence. Of course, if one can argue that if I had not been in Nkrumah, do you know what Ghana the time that would have independence? No, we didn't know. So Nkrumah did well. Now the time was ripe. Nkrumah saw the time as ripe, being ripe for independence, and others were dragging their feet. Why other countries in Asia and others were having their independence, and then people said that, let's do it gradually. At the time that he knew that things were right. So we see that's what we're talking about, people. So Nkrumah did well, that one. You can't say that Nkrumah it's not a betrayal. He saw it. That's why he said he saw it that No, don't forget that Nkrumah was put in jail and he was incarcerated in the name of independence struggle. You see, so he was. That's what I want to talking about. Patriotic sons of Ghana. We mentioned Nkrumah because Nkrumah even suffered in the name of independence struggle. Do you know that when they went, they felt that Nkrumah had connection with Nana Kobrang Ketia, the fourth of Escado, and in second D, and so they got the hint that Nkrumah had left Accra for Escado, and so they went there and they instructed the policemen in second D to go to the chief palace and destroy everything in the palace because they were of the view that Nkrumah could turn into any objects. Any object, it could even turn it into a table, it could turn into a door, children's door, everything it could do. So when they go, they should destroy everything, including a book, any object. And the chief was not around at the time. They entered the palace, they mortgaged everything in the palace. You see? With the view that once they did that, then they will end up killing Nkrumah. You see? So Nkrumah fought. Nkrumah fought for us. We will not say it was a betrayal. If they had bought into Nkrumah's suggestion that the time is ripe, let us now ask for independence, table the motion for independence, and they will say, no, master, the time is not due. Meanwhile, he knew time was right. And don't forget that this was also a elite party. They did not even bring the masses on board. They did not bring the masses on board. It was Nkrumah who brought the ordinary people, that all of you come together, let's come together and fight. He brought them. So that's why we say that the CPP was a mass party. And then the UGNCC was an elite party, an elite party. Okay, so Nkrumah did not do anything wrong. It depends on argument. That is how we do analysis. You can say Nkrumah did wrong, and you are at liberty to go. In the academic circles, you can do analysis. Whatever you say, once you have evidence or you can explain it, have evidence to support it. Yeah, why not? It's a stance, the conversation. You can say Nkrumah, and what do you call it? As you said, he left them to form his party and did not do well. He betrayed them. But somebody will say that Nkrumah took the bold step, and that led to Ghana's attainment of independence. Otherwise, if Nkrumah had also remained one of the leading members of the UNCC, who knows that Ghana wouldn't even have. Ghana would even get independent later. It would have been a problem. It would have been a problem.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc, for the
So,
explanation.
Hello, Doc.
Yeah.
Doc, please, I want to ask this question.
Ghana
was the first country that gained independence in the sub-Sahara region.
In sub-Saharan Africa, yeah.
So I want the explanation of the sub-Sahara.
Go on there. Listen, just go to Google. So you will see the part that refer to as sub-Saharan Africa, and you know more about it.
Okay, now secondly,
yeah.
Okay, when Kwame Nkrumah had independence for Ghana, he wanted to unite the whole Africa so that Africa will become one. But I believe it didn't go on well, and they overthrew Kwame Nkrumah.
That will be under. That is outside this course. That will be post-independent Ghana. We are doing colonial Ghana. I beg you.
Okay.
So that will be post-independence Ghana. If you add all to it, you will suffer. So this time when we are doing those who will do history major, we'll take them post-independent Ghana, and we'll go into Nkrumah's administration. This one they were just scratching the surface. That is why you will delve into Nkrumah, and then even the military regimes and all that post-independence. So we look at that. So that one is not, it's outside the discourse. Discourse.
Sir,
again,
I can say that Nkrumah did very well for the independence of Ghana. But can we say that the journey
I can't hear you.
Started by some people, so we can't give all the credit to Nkrumah. That's one. Second one is that he said for Ghana, I mean, for helping us to attain the independence. but I know that some people started it, and he was
But
invited.
how long did they start it? How long? Because it was formed in August, 4th August, and Nkrumah came in November. So how long?
So sir, please, can we give all the country Nkrumah?
No, all of them. All of them, okay. But you can single Nkrumah out because he broke away and then form a party that led the country to independence. It was not the agencies that led the country to independence. It was the CPP. So Nkrumah, even though he was part of that group, he saw the need to break away.
Okay, sir. Again, the speech that Nkrumah made on the Independence Day, his accent, it sounds different to me than that of the language that we see. Is it that he stayed in a different country? That's why they are quite
that one we'll get to we are not done with the course. So we'll get to what do you call it? The attainment of independence and the name Ghana, so that you come with these questions when you get there. I think on that note, we end here for today. And then the next time that we meet, we'll continue. I wish you all the best and enjoy.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
God richly bless you, Doc. We really enjoyed
thank you.
everything.
It's been nice.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Amen. Hey, coffee me.
Hello, please, slice. For slice giving, I want to know if slice were giving. I joined late, so I don't know if slice has been given already. I'm just asking, please.
But it has not been given to be posted to the platform. So when it is posted, you can access it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Please, next time, if there is a scheduled class, you give the notice earlier, please. Because some of us, we didn't see, we just saw it now.
Yeah, so I think the time did not come early. So, as you have said, next time we have to make the pre-notice come earlier than today.
Magasa no. Ano yo nyanka. Shunabon. Onye onye akwunda da ai. The accident ma excursion. Ma from Magasa ma so na excursion. Baby excursion. Oh. Abanko for some effort. Hipa. Jefferson. 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 Oh, you more class. Easy. Hello. Hello. Okubama bro. Hello. Let's work on it. Oja tamaya ya dido. It's my fun in the hospital. Hello. 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 Colleagues. Hello.
Hello. Hello, colleague.